currently? Or
It was December 14th in the year 1799 that George Washington, the American revolutionary leader and the first president of our nation, continued his eternity at his estate in Mount Vernon, Virginia. He was 67 years old. George Washington was born in 1732 to a farm family in Westmoreland County, Virginia. His first direct military experience came as a lieutenant colonel in the Virginia Colonial Militia in 1754, at which time he led a small expedition against the French in the Ohio River Valley on behalf of the governor of Virginia. 2 years later, Washington took command of the defenses of the western Virginian frontier during the French and Indian War. After the war's fighting moved elsewhere, he resigned from his military post, returned to a planter's life, and took a seat in Virginia's House of Burgesses. During the next 2 decades, Washington openly opposed the escalating British taxation and repression of the American colonies. In 1774, he represented Virginia at the Continental Congress. After the American Revolution erupted in 1775, Washington was nominated to be the commander-in-chief of the newly established Continental Army. There were some in the Continental Congress that opposed his appointment, thinking other candidates were better equipped for the post, but he was ultimately chosen because as a Virginian, his leadership helped bind the southern colonies more closely to the rebellion in New England. With his inexperienced and poorly equipped army of civilian soldiers, General Washington led an effective war of harassment against British forces in America while encouraging the intervention of the French into the conflict on behalf of the colonists. On October 19th in 1781, with the surrender of British General Charles Lord Cornwallis's massive British army at Yorktown, Virginia, General Washington had defeated one of the most powerful nations on earth. After the war, the victorious general retired to his estate at Mount Vernon, but in 1787, he heeded his nation's call and returned to politics to preside over the Continental Convention in Philadelphia. The drafters created the office of the president with him in mind, and in February of 1789, Washington was unanimously elected as the first president of our nation. As president, Washington sought to unite the nation and protect the interests of the new republic at home and abroad. Of his presidency, he said, quote, "I walk on untrodden ground. There is scarcely any part of my conduct which may not hereafter be drawn in precedent," unquote. George Washington successfully implemented executive authority. He made good use of the brilliant politicians in his cabinet, such as Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. George Washington also did a great job at quieting fears of a presidential tyranny. In 1792, he was unanimously reelected, but 4 years later, he refused a third term. In the year 1797, he finally began a long-awaited retirement at his estate in Virginia. He continued his eternity 2 years later. His friend Henry Lee provided a famous eulogy for the father of the United States. Quote, "First in war, first in peace, and first in the hearts of his countrymen," unquote. It was December 14th in the year 1900 that German physicist Max Planck publishes his groundbreaking study of the effect of radiation on a black body substance, and the quantum theory of modern physics is born. Through physical experiments, Planck demonstrated that energy in certain situations can exhibit characteristics of physical matter. According to theories of classical physics, energy is solely a continuous wave-like phenomenon, independent of the characteristics of physical matter. Planck's theory held that radiant energy is made up of particle-like components known as quanta. The theory helped to resolve previously unexplained natural phenomena, such as the behavior of heat in solids and the nature of light absorption on an atomic level. In 1918, Planck was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics for his work on black body radiation. Other scientists such as Albert Einstein, Niels Bohr, Louis de Broglie, Erwin Schrödinger, and Paul M. Dirac advanced Planck's theory and made possible the development of quantum mechanics, a mathematical application of quantum theory that maintains that energy is both matter and a wave depending on certain variables. Quantum mechanics thus takes a probabilistic view of nature, sharply contrasting with classical mechanics, in which all precise properties of objects are, in principle, calculable. Today, the combination of quantum mechanics with Einstein's theory of relativity is the basis of modern physics. It was December 14th in the year 2012 that the Sandy Hook school shooting took place. The Sandy Hook shooting was, at the time, the second deadliest mass shooting in the United States after the 2007 shooting at Virginia Tech, in which a gunman shot 32 students and teachers before committing suicide. Shortly after 9:30 a.m., 20-year-old Adam Lanza shot through a plate glass window next to Sandy Hook's locked front entrance in order to gain access to the school. Hearing the noise, school principal and school psychologists went to investigate and were shot by Lanza. They continued their eternity. Lanza also shot and wounded 2 other Sandy Hook staff members. He then entered 2 first-grade classrooms where he gunned down 2 teachers and 15 students in one room and 2 teachers and 5 students in the other room. When Lanza heard the police closing in on him, he shot himself in a classroom at approximately 9:40 a.m. As a result of the classroom attack, 12 girls and 8 boys that were 6 and 7-year-olds continued their eternity. There were 12 first graders from the 2 classrooms that survived. Police soon learned that sometime earlier that morning, before arriving at Sandy Hook, Lanza had shot his 52-year-old mother at their home. She continued her eternity. She owned the weapons her son used in his deadly rampage. It's reported that Adam Lanza was armed with a semi-automatic rifle, 2 semi-automatic pistols, and multiple rounds of ammunition. Investigators determined that Lanza, who had attended Sandy Hook as a boy, acted alone in planning and carrying out the attack. But they were unable to find a motive for his actions or discover why he had targeted Sandy Hook. In November of 2013, the Connecticut State's Attorney released a report noting that Lanza had, quote, significant mental health issues that affected his ability to live a normal life and interact with others, unquote. However, mental health professionals who had worked with him did not see anything that would have predicted his future behavior, according to the report. In the aftermath of the Sandy Hook shooting, President Barack Obama, our nation's 44th president, called for new gun safety measures. However, his primary legislative goal, expanded background checks for gun buyers, was blocked by the U.S. Senate. The community of Newton, which has some 27,000 residents and is located about 45 miles southwest of Connecticut's capital, Hartford, eventually decided to tear down Sandy Hook Elementary School. It was razed in the fall of 2013. A new school was built on the same site.
Historic information divulged and documented on this audio file can be verified on history.